Everybody has a story, but some stories are so inspiring to go unrecorded. Such are the stories of the art and science of resilience. A time has come for Reverend Canon Dr. Moses Njoroge to hand over the leadership mantle at St. Andrew's College of Theology. This documentary is based on Canon Moses' autobiography and stories told by those he touched. Sometimes, reaching out and taking someone's hand is the beginning of a journey, the journey of resilience. From grass to grace.
Well, I think it's a long story because I was born in Muranga, a county, back in 1951, and my dad had gone to Muranga to work in the squatters. We had then to come to Kirinyaga during emergency when it was declared that the people who are in other counties, they could go back to their original counties. My dad died when I was 12 years old. When I was left with mom, was not very strong. The challenges of not getting enough food to eat, and sometimes when I fall sick, we didn't have money to go for treatment. I can remember when we left Muranga and we were coming to Kirinyaga, we were first taken to Muranga prison. I remember this not vividly because I was young, but I remember that I got sick and I nearly died.
We married in July, 14th July 1979. By this time, he did not also have money. Therefore, I had to struggle because I had to have a maid. And apart from maid, I had to have a workman because of the shamba. Therefore, it was not easy. After maybe a lot of struggle, I said, let the will of God be done.
Some of the things that I remember when I was growing up is when he was doing his pastoral work on a bike. And I remember Mom used to make some sweaters for him, and then he would put newspapers inside the sweater because he had to take a long ride to where he was going to preach or where he was going to minister.
Dad's background is very humbling and very inspiring, considering where he is today and where he has come from. We can see a lot of progress in his life.
And it's a challenge to us who are not born in such humble backgrounds. So we stand at a more privileged position as we look into the future.
I really cannot say how I managed because all my life I've seen God's faithfulness. I would say this is what I did to be able to overcome this. But through God's grace, it happened that there were people that God used to be able to assist me in different ways.
Dad's humble background teaches me one thing. It may sound to be a cliche that humble yourself and God will lift you up. But if his life is anything to go by, the legacy that he has left behind, that statement made sense. The first date was first spoken and still makes sense up to date.
And from that journey now I can be able to see that there's still hope in this future. The
interesting thing is that the church, my local church, did not leave me. But mainly in the high school, I was given bursary by the county council. When I was in secondary school in Form 2, that's when I had a very strong call to serve the church. I remember very well, I was sitting under a mango tree, and I heard very clearly, and I got convinced that I would give my life to the ministry of the church. Then immediately after Form 4, I got a job as a UT, an qualified teacher. And I taught for about 2 years before I was taken in to go through a very vigorous in-service training at Kagumo Teachers Training College. And we did that for 4 years.
Looking at Dad as an untrained teacher into a P1 teacher, going to do a diploma, and being able to complete his PhD, and doing this while he's still in service, again, it is encouraging for me.
What I can capture from his academics part and what I have right now, I now understand the importance of reading. I now understand the importance of going further in education, okay? Because I'm a product, okay, of the academics. In the forces, you get to when you study, okay, you give yourself that liberty to even to grow.
Through God's grace, I was given scholarship to go and do my undergraduate program at St. Paul's. That time we used to call it St. Paul's United Theological College. That's where I did my Bachelor of Divinity degree. I was able to get a scholarship in the next 2 to 3 years or so to go and do masters. And again, this came as a result of Dr. David Gitari. I remember he visited Canada, and then when he came back, he had some forms that he requested me to fill. These are scholarship forms. And I was able to get a full scholarship to go to Wycliffe College in the University of Toronto, in Toronto City. And I did masters for 2 years, and then I graduated in May 1991.
When he went to Wycliffe College, I was invited. He maneuvered this way, and I went for his graduation. Therefore, that 1 month, I felt the taste of the ministry.
That took a very short time. But then it took me, I think about 13 years, around that, for me to do doctoral studies. I was trying. I kept on trying, but it seemed like it was not going to work out. But I never lost faith. I still believed that one day I would do doctoral studies.
From Dad's education background, the main thing I gather is determination and focus. Because during all this time, through the hardships that he went through, he was able to maintain his focus.
All the way to his PhD, that then begs the question now, if he was able to raise from a P1 teacher to a PhD holder, how much more should we be able to do? I think we should be able to raise the bar much higher than he already has.
I remember I started it at in a Presbyterian a college in Thogoto, and again I was not able to continue in the Presbyterian college because of finances. So I dropped, and it's like I felt maybe this thing was not going to work. But then through God's grace, again through Dr. Gitari, he was able to get a scholarship. He went to US, and then again he came with some forms, and these scholarship forms. And then he called me in his office and he asked me whether I could consider that. So we filled the forms, and then I was given a scholarship to do doctoral studies, which was a very good scholarship because I was going to US every 3 months to meet my lecturers, then come back to do research, and then in about 3.5 years I was able to complete the studies.
Put in mind also of a quote that comes from a thesis that Canon Njoroge wrote in 2005, in which he quoted Niebuhr and Gustafson as saying that theological education and the formation of ministry is closely linked with the life of a community, that queries about the aims of teaching and learning that cannot be answered unless the ideas about character and the purposes of the society in which it is carried out are clarified first of all. No other approach to an educational problem seems possible, since a school is never separable from a community in which it works, whose living tradition it carries on, into which it sends citizens and leaders imbued with the tradition and committed to the social values. That, for me, describes the work, Moses, you've been doing for 30 years.
It is very clear from that he began from a very low grade, and then he kept on rising from one level to another. And I think personally, as a person who is in the ministry, then that teaches me a lot, that from the level that I am, I'll be able to achieve another level tomorrow, and I can be able to raise story by story.
His academic journey has been long and winding, but one thing that I pick from him is that you do not have really to bank on where you find yourself in. If God has given you a lemon, don't complain, just make a lemonade from that particular thing. And he has inspired me how he was in a position to raise from being a primary school teacher to a lecturer. Now he even has that doctorate in ministerial.
He wanted to join the church ministry, but myself, I did not want full-time ministry. I wanted him to be a tent maker, and therefore we took time to agree whether he should go to full-time ministry. After maybe a lot of struggle, I said, let the will of God be done. Therefore, I gave him my blessings, and in 1981, he went to Kabare.
I had to make a decision whether to be a tent maker in the class or to give myself to the ministry of the church. Well, I needed to be a tent maker all through, but through the late Dr. David Gitari, he really persuaded me if I could consider offering myself to work in the church on full-time basis. And so he persuaded me, and then finally I gave in. It was not easy, especially considering that I loved teaching so much. But finally then I gave in. Then I came here at St. Andrew's College, where I did ministerial formation training for 6 months. I think this was 1980. And then immediately after 6 months ministerial training, I then was made up a deacon. And I've been coming to Kabare, like when I did my master's. Then I was posted at Kabare, as a principal. And I did, I think, for about 3 years. And then my good friend, the late Dr. Gitari, we had a meeting in the office. And then he said, Moses, I think you are more of a pastor than an administrator. And so I'm considering transferring you from the institution here and post you as a provost at St. Thomas Cathedral, Kerugoya. And so that's what happened. I was transferred from here, I think it was 93, 94. And then I went to become a provost of our cathedral at Njoroge. And I did that for about 3 years.
And looking back, his church service, all that I can say is that he has taught me that authority for Christians does not come from power but love, not by force, but basically by example, and not by coercion, but by reasoned persuasion. That's something that I've learned from him. He has always been a leader, and he has always learned from other people as well. Remember, we keep on saying that if you are a leader and no one is following you, you are basically just taking a walk.
Dad is a man of God, and he's truly a man of God.
It is very clear that he has worked with a lot of dedication, a lot of commitment. He has many success stories that we can see from his work in the church as a church minister. He was also able to balance between his church work and also his family life. And we have seen many people who are actually looking upon him as mentors in the ministry. Many clergy who have gone through his hands, and also in the parishes where he has worked, we see a lot of progress.
It really inspires us. It is really a testament of how much God can do. Yeah.
Then the same friend, the late Dr. Gitari, my very good mentor, he called me again. And then he said, I think, Moses, I think we are considering you taking you back to St. Andrews as the principal of the college. Well, of course, I did not ask him, but I nearly asked him. But now, my Lord Bishop, how sure are you that this time I'm a better administrator because you transferred me from Kabare on the basis that I was more of a pastor and not an administrator? Of course, I nearly asked him that.
What I can say about Dad as a principal, as a teacher, that is when I actually got to know him as a principal. And right from the beginning, I was able to see a person who is very passionate with teaching, a person who is also very candid, and a person who is also an administrator. And we sat in his feet for 3 years during the ministerial formation. And I would say that in a very big way, he was able to mentor all of us in terms of being scholars and also in terms of being ministers of the gospel.
We thank God for that work, for your faithful and strong leadership. I wish I was there to celebrate with you, but please know that I and my wife Mary are with you in heart and in spirit.
Principal is a great teacher, a mentor, and more so a pastor. I've seen that in him, especially now in leadership context where maybe one of us is affected with a problem or is sick or one is bereaved. Sometimes you go to an extra mile on how to assist the family and even to conduct pastoral visitation to those who are affected, not just to the people outside within the college, but also to the students who are affected with various issues. So personally, I can say, apart from an administrator and a leader, he's a great pastor.
He still have big heart to accommodate some of us, even when things are not working right, and he's able to bring us back and focus all these years. So that's one of his major strength.
I would wish maybe I did more, is to love my students more and my staff, because I think my success here, I owe it so much to the members of staff who have been very supportive and helping me. I wouldn't claim that I've been a great leader. It's just through God's grace.
I want to appreciate for the time he has been here. We've worked so well Since even the Bible says there is time for everything, time has come for him to get out. But we shall forever remember his support, the good work he has done, and the fact that right now he's outside the college. We'll continue even to work together with him, even beyond outside this college, and be able even to assist in transforming the society. Especially, his one of more desires to see people purpose-driven pastors. I remember in one instant he said that St. Andrew is not meant to produce half-baked priests. So I think that one will continue. Even outside the college, we'll see how we'll involve him to make sure our society is moving on well.
When I have a group of students, and now we are giving them very encouraging words and wishing them all the best in the ministry, that has really been very, very refreshing to see the lot that now we are giving to God and humanity to go and serve the church and the society. It's been very, very exciting.
Out of that, we were able to become responsible ministers outside, and also to become up-to-date scholars in terms of our theological formation. And I think it is out of that many people who have gone through his hands is not just at diploma level. They want to get to another level of a degree. They want to get to masters, and many have also gone to a PhD level.
Many times he keeps on telling me, you know what, whoever ceases to read ceases to lead. And that has always inspired me.
The saddest moment when I've been really low here, it is when I'm dealing with the finances. And especially when I'm asking the students who have not paid fees to go home. I think, to be honest with you, that has been very, very difficult for me to do. I have had sleepless nights, and especially when I see students going home and because of the fees, it's been very, very difficult for me.
The way we have been able to handle that together really is what we call pastoral fellowship, whereby we are able to meet on individual basis. We understand this student, why haven't you cleared your fees? Then you'll be able to have a dialogue, you understand it better, and the promises are made, which to a greater extent, of course, pay dividend later, because they are able to pay and to finish their training in time.
I think one has to know how you prioritize. And for me, for example, the family has always been my number one, and then my work number two. And so I've been very careful to prioritize in the right way. Like, of course, I've been spending time here in the college, but the weekends I have to be at home so that I can be with my family.
Canon Moses, the dad. I have said this many times, and I would say it again, that he's the best dad in the world. One of the things that I remember, again, growing up with Canon Moses as a father, it is when, and I remember this with a lot of joy, it is when every Christmas he would give us some monetary allocation, he would give us money, and we were supposed to go and buy clothes to celebrate Christmas. And he did not tell you what to buy, he gave you the money, and from there you needed to come and account for it.
He has walked with us step by step through our schooling, during our down moments. I was in high school, and I was supposed to be taken from school to go for some treatment. I remember it was about, I think in Form 2, and it was very disturbing because I didn't know what I was expecting during the treatment. And when he came for me in the school, I actually closed before the others. It was during the third term, and I was very low. But he was able to find words, comforting words, assuring words that all will be okay, all is not lost, you know, there's still a future, there's a hope, and all that.
And indeed, when history will be written, I think it will be said that he served God and served man.
The fact that he was able to struggle with all of us through high school and up to the point at which we are now, then Canon Moses, the dad, is the best dad one can have.
In these 36 years now I have stayed, I can say all things are possible with God.
The other key thing is delegation, where I have learned not to work alone, where I delegate duties to the members of staff, and that has taken me a long way. And sometimes, you know, when I delegate, sometimes I find that the work is done better.
Principal, we love him, and we will be missed here. Of course, has been a cornerstone in our institution. Personally, I only wish him very well, the best in the future.
I've also been having a very, very supportive governing council, and they've been very, very instrumental. Well, sometimes when I don't do things very well, I have to share with them the difficulties and the challenges, and they've been very supportive. I really thank God for them.
We appreciate his work, and we really feel good, and that his legacy will proceed on even after he has left.
There are people who think perhaps they can only rely on God and they don't work hard. It doesn't work like that. You have to work very hard. In other words, you have to do your part, and then God will do his part.
I'm whom I am today because of the inspiration that I've got from my dad. You know, I work in an environment that requires someone to be so dynamic because I'm a journalist. But my dad has always maintained one thing, that, you know, my son, don't work for money. Work because that's where your passion is. That's something that he has always told me, and I try as much as I can every time when I go out to do those exclusive interviews, to tell those stories. I tell them to transform lives. It's not business as usual.
One thing I thank God for is that I feel I'm still strong, and God has given me good health, of which I thank him very much. One thing which is becoming clearer to me, I think, as I think about this, I want to support the priests that I have trained for all these years.
Out of your dedication, you have mentored many of us, and that is why we are able to be in the positions that we are in at this particular time in the ministry. And therefore, we want to wish you God's blessing in your retirement. We are sure that you continue to serve God even in a bigger way. You are only changing the routine of to the Kabare. You'll be working. So we are very happy and grateful to the Lord that he has given you full all these years to work in the ministry. And now you are retiring, and you are retiring strong. And we want to wish you God's blessing even in retirement.
And we want to wish you some time to rest and enjoy some peace and quiet after your many years of hard work. I'm also reminded of your wife Mary saying that I gave you a book addiction many years ago. And so I commend you at this time to go and enjoy that addiction and to enjoy your rest.
You have really taught us that there is still hope. Okay, as young as we are, as we grow old, we can still seek to achieve more through our academics. That humility, that patience, that perseverance in relationships, that is what I'd want to have throughout my life.
Thank God for you, and I want to thank you for all that you taught me. I learned so much more from Kabare.
It has been 35 years in the ministry, and we are so proud of you, Dad, that 35 years down the line, that you have remained faithful and you have finished faithful.
You have been there for us each step of the way, and we thank God for you. We do not take you for granted, and God bless you so much, Dad.
Congratulations, Guka ukiritaya. We love you and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Haya, 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 higher, higher, Jesus, higher. Lower, 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 Satan, lower.